Hi everyone, I hope all of you guys are doing well. So the 2024 year is coming to an end and we are going to have year 2025 start very soon. I don't want you to wait till 2025 January, the 1st of Jan, to make your New Year's resolution. If you want to start something new this year, if you want to learn something new this year, if you want to be a certain way, maybe you want to start exercising more, maybe you want to start reading more, I want you to start today. I want you to use these 30 days to get into the habit of doing that thing, and I'm sure then for the rest of the 2025 you can actually achieve that. So with that little bit of advice, let us start today's session, in which I'm going to discuss the importance of context and how to utilize context as a tool for achieving very good results in UPSC. In my one of the videos just a month back or so, I had discussed what are certain key things that all of you should go over when you're starting UPSC preparation. Some of the basics that you need to know when you start your UPSC preparation. Now, one of the very important things that I feel most of the aspirants are missing when they are starting to study for UPSC. In fact, when you're studying for even in your college, when you're studying your subjects or whatever, the tendency today, nowadays, is for students to just tell their teachers, सर हमें बुक दे दो, हमें ये चैप्टर पढ़ा दो, हमें ये पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक पढ़ा दो, just teach us this particular topic and we are fine. Don't give us gyan, don't give us knowledge, information on what we should study, don't give us counseling. They are, a lot of times students are just looking for content from a coaching institute or from teachers instead of actually going asking for a direction in which to go. But I have always believed that it is very much more important for you to know in which direction to go instead of just knowing the details of the information that you need to know. Okay, so in exams in UPSC, the first thing when you're studying is that it is important for you to figure out the context of what you are studying. So I will give you two examples. Okay, now this is the book Spectrum for Modern India. This book is used by a lot of aspirants. You can also use the NCERT book which I used. This book is very thick. It has all these notes and details of all the historical events that happened when it comes to the freedom struggle of India, and just before that and after that. So if you look at the table of contents of this particular book, TOC, you will see this book starts from the chapter like sources of history of modern India, major approaches to the history of modern India, colonial approach, nationalist approach, Marxist approach. Then it starts from the actual history, which is advent of Europeans in India, India on the eve of the British conquest. So like this, it talks about various things that were happening in India before the colonization happened by the British in India, and then early coming of the British to India and how they expanded their power, and then eventually how the resentment started against the company rule, against the British rule. How were British changing India, what kind of policies they brought, what kind of a colonial rule they ran in India, and after that various reform movements as well as nationalist movement struggles that started against the British in India. So all these various chapters are covered in this. Now the problem with students is what? When they start studying books like these, they will just, instead of actually taking a brief look at what overall bird's view of what they are going to study, they start right from the first chapter and they will start studying, and then they will get overwhelmed by the amount of information. They will get overwhelmed by the kind of information that is thrown to them because it is so new. So for example, if you are starting from chapter 1, which is sources and approaches, it is very likely that it is going to become very tough and it is going to take you a long time to finish this book, because this sources and approaches and the second part, which is about the major approaches and the sources. So sources, and then the chapter 2 is approaches. These are things, number one, they are not asked in UPSC most of the time. Even if they are asked, maybe one question will come which you can always maybe get by guessing, or you can skip it. So is it important to read such massive chapters of almost 20-30 pages? Is it worth it to study these 20-30 pages for that just one question? Maybe, maybe not. Is it important for you to spend so much time knowing about so much facts, so much small facts? There are at least 40-50 names or 40-50 books, personalities here, maybe not. So that kind of an understanding of what you are studying is important. If you are just going to start from the first chapter itself, maybe it is not the right approach. You can come back to it. You should definitely read it, but read it after when you have read the relevant parts. So I always say that first of all, try to understand the context of what you are studying. Now, when you're studying Indian freedom struggle, how do you understand the context of what you're studying? Of course, I don't have a computer right now to show you that, but if you just Google freedom struggle of India, this particular thing, okay, there will be a lot of sources. I have Googled it. There is Study IQ, Impact Guru, all these sponsored sources from coaching institutes are there. And then there is this Wikipedia article about Indian independence movement. This is not going to be a comprehensive article by any means, but it will give you an overall little bit of an overview about what Indian independence movement was all about. Okay, and then if you are not satisfied with that, there is this Britannica. Britannica is a very good old source, Britannica source, where they talk about the Indian independence movement, where this overall context of what you are going to study in this particular book in detail. Or you can go and search for any YouTube videos. For example, there are these different resources or videos that have come, and you can also, obviously, instead of going for some popular or very biased ones, you can try to go for some, maybe coaching institutes have provided revision of modern Indian history for UPSC in 30 minutes. Some institute has provided, maybe this is a good video, I have not seen it. So like this, you have to maybe search for a couple of videos and see which one could be a good source. I would personally say don't look at the famous YouTubers or some news channels for this. Try to go and look for some legitimate non-biased sources where you can find some balance. So like that, these sources are very good for creating an overall context in your mind about what you are studying. Before you study such a thick book or such detailed information about any topic, if you read a little bit of bird's eye overview, for example, if you get an idea, okay, British came to India in around this year, and after that for 200 years they ruled India, and overall the way they ruled India was through divide and rule and all these different policies that they had. They started expansion from one particular part and then later expanded to the parts. Initially it was the East India Company that came just for business and trade, but they started using that as a tool for expansion after seeing that India was not only a source of great wealth, but the local Indian leaders were weak at that time, they could be manipulated. So when you start going into those small context, small things, afterwards it will help you when you have this bigger context, this bigger bird's eye view, that will really help you to study this book more effectively, this topic more effectively. Same thing applies, let's say you're studying ancient India. Now in ancient India, if you look at the NCERT book, which is always used for studying this particular subject, and it is a very good book, I feel like it's a very simple book. If you look at the table of content, it also gives you a very good idea of what things you need to study. So read the table of contents very carefully, because that itself is a great way to understand what are the important things I have to study. So for example, here the table of contents is the importance of Indian history, ancient Indian history, modern historians of ancient India. So this you can always study, these kind of chapters you can always study later, because the number of questions asked from these kind of particular topics is very less. The UPSC is more interested in asking you questions from the actual history, from the actual dynastic questions, maybe about any principle, about any kind of events that happened, maybe about any kind of particular rituals that were there, so these kind of things the UPSC is asking. If you look at the old papers, then obviously those kind of chapters become less relevant. So if you study chapter like types of sources and historical construction, again maybe not that important. Geographical setting, very important. So this particular chapter will probably give you an amazing overview of what you're going to do. The geographical setting is about how India is placed in the big picture of things, what are the things that affect history of India, what are the geographical things, climatic things that affect the overall history of India. That is important. So, and then they go into the Stone Age, Chalcolithic farming cultures, then Harappan culture, etc., etc. So, just going through the overall the table of contents and maybe searching, doing a little search on your phone, your computer, if you're traveling, about the overall context of the Indian history, ancient Indian history, the freedom struggle of India. That way, you will get an idea about what you are studying, what you have to study, and it will be much easier for you to then later go into the details and study. Now, once you have framed this overall context, the next thing is start reading. Read one chapter, try to go to previous year questions, write some of those previous year's questions down in front of you, and then when you are reading chapters, try to relate those previous year questions with what you are studying, because that way you will actually connect what is coming in the exam to what you are reading. Because if you are just reading like that and then later on you realize I am not able to solve the questions because what I am reading may not be directly related to what is being asked in the exams, then it becomes difficult. So you have to be a little bit more cautious about how you're using your time when you're studying. So write down these previous year questions, come back to the text, go back to the PYQs, do some Google search. So this mix and match kind of a strategy is very important when you're studying. So this is how this context framing is very important when you're studying anything. I thought I told you this because it will help you to, when you are moving into the new year, you are starting your preparation, maybe you are thinking about completely revamping your preparation. The results of UPSC are also going to come out. So that way, if you are into this whole, kind of headspace where you need to understand how you can study for this exam, this is how I would approach it. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be posting the answer writing videos continuously as well, so use them. They are very useful. I think for me also, when I do them, I felt that, oh, someone if was telling us this way, when I was studying, maybe it would have been very useful. So use them and let me know, give me your feedback. More than happy to apply that feedback to the future classes. Thanks, take care, bye bye.